Jed Hoyer held his end-of-season press conference. We get you all the details next.
You are Locked On Cubs, your daily Chicago Cubs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Cubs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Alongside Sam Olber, I'm Matt Cozy. Sam and I are lifelong fans, taking our passion into discussion with you on all things Cubs. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the FanDuel app today. Once again, another reminder, brand new shows this offseason, 5 days per week. New episodes will be published to your preferred audio platform and YouTube each weekday morning, all offseason long. Cubs president of baseball operations, Jed Hoyer, held his end-of-season press conference on Wednesday. And that's the entire episode today, is to go over what Jed said. And we start with his own reflections on 2025, just like we did the other day ourselves. Sam, Jed said his biggest emotion was pride. He was really proud of the team from day one to game 170. They ended up playing. He talked about how they won 92 games and pretty convincing fashion. He liked the marathon part of the season. Talked about how that translates to the postseason, and we'll go through it all. But he definitely had a pep in his step on Wednesday after their first playoff appearance in a while.
For sure. I felt like this is what I felt like the mood was going to be. It was very, I jotted down some stuff. First thing I jotted down was just Jed, I'm not going to use the word celebratory. That's too strong. It wasn't that level, but it was, a guy with an extension in his pocket and a 92 win team. And, I think Bruce led off the presser asking him,
no surprise there,
hey, successful season, but not the ultimate goal. And at first Jed kind of said, hey, it wasn't this, it wasn't that, but you could just tell this is an organization that feels really good about itself right now, as they should. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I mean, they did a lot of really good things this year, but, I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and say I was hoping for a little bit more from the press conference, because I wasn't. This is exactly what I expected. You got a guy that, boasted a good team and was happy about it, and then talked about certain things. But I definitely have a few issues with what he said. I'm sure we'll get into it as you get into some quotes and I get into what I jotted down.
I'm sure if I reviewed our episodes following his end-of-season pressers, this would be the fourth one that we've done.
Yeah.
He probably sounds the same every time, even though they won way more this year than, after 22, the first time we did it. But yeah, I guess I would be mistaken if I was hoping for more, just because I know better. I know the system. I know his style, his cadence.
Right.
But he did use the word disappointed initially to answer Bruce's question.
Right.
But from that point forward, celebratory, you're right. That wouldn't be the correct term, but he was positive. And for many reasons, he should be. We have a real, this is all paraphrases, by the way. I'm a good note taker, but I don't have exact quotes. He used the word proud a lot, and pride.
Yep.
And I don't think that was a spike the football moment for him as a human. But the fact is he entered this 1 year ago, he was a lame duck.
Yep.
He got the extension over the summer. His team made the playoffs. I'm proud. I have a lot of, good memories from the year. He said they have a real foundation to keep building from. I'd like to, hear more about that, which he got into a little bit. But, it just seems throughout there are some things that are contradictory with each other. I thought when he talked about the postseason, Sam,
Mm-hmm.
he seemed to sidestep, how impactful that could be. I
Yeah.
was wondering if that's where maybe one of your contentions was.
Yeah.
But all in all, it's good to hear from Jed. He's nothing if not transparent.
Yep.
It's a lot, or it's not to break down. Maybe he said a whole lot of nothing. Who knows?
I mean, I just have philosophical differences with some of the things that he said, and it's been going on. And it's been going on. I mean, this is how it's been for years. Like, for example, he praised the offense, right?
Big time. He called them exceptional.
It did not bother him that they were mute for basically the large part of the second half, because he looks at the totality of the 162, and it just doesn't seem like the path to get to where you go matters to him as long as you get to where you need to go, which is fair. I'm more of a path guy. I'm more of a consistency guy. I don't like the ebbs and flows. And he did mention they may look at ways to mitigate those ebbs and flows. And I do agree with what he said about the playoffs and how it is a lot harder to hit. So you can't look at that directly. But I just thought, overall it was just a little too jovial for me. Just a little bit too, like that's the type of press conference I would have expected maybe if we went around further and won the division. This team didn't win the division. And they lost to the team that beat them out for the division. So they're still in a second place frame there. But yeah, a lot of pride in the offense. Can
I follow up with you on that?
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about some of the guys individually. He mentioned fatigue with Pete, which I think is fair.
Yeah. So he said the totality of what our offense did was exceptional. I don't know if we have control of the shape. Use the word shape a lot, as if we're in maybe some kind of a math course of how that happens. A lot of that is random. When guys are hot, when they're not. Guys in the first half who did well all struggled at the same time in the second half. Do you agree with that? That you don't control the shape of how it happens? A lot of it's random. It seems like a bigger claim. I don't know if I agree.
Well, no, I've never agreed with that. And I think that's where Jed and not that I have the right to question Jed, but on this show I do. That's where Jed and I've disagreed with him. And again, when I say Jed and I've never spoken to Jed once. He has no idea who I am. I think I made it sound like him and I are like friends there. Would love to have you on if you're listening. This is always where I've disagreed with the Jed Hoyer, Boog Shambi analytical thing. Like, oh, well, close games are random. There's a lot of randomness to it. Well, there is for sure, but there's ways to be better in those spots. Oh, well, you can't control how guys get to their numbers. Well, you might want to try, because when you have everybody struggling at the same time, it ruins the season. And I don't think it's random, because it kind of feels like it happens every year. And yeah, that was my big kind of like the disagreement side, I would say, of just what he said. It just feels like a team, Matt, and we could close the first part of this with this. It just feels like this is a team that is really, really content being right around 87 to 94.
No, don't say 87.
And
we can't let them get away with 87 wins, and you know that.
And they want to be on the higher end, and they want to roll the ball out every year. And I think internally they say, hey, if we could just continue making – I mean, how many times did he say just continue making good decisions?
Oh, he did it about 20.
If you continue making good decisions and 90 to 92, maybe eventually you get hot in the postseason, because he kept talking about 8 games,
Yes.
What a small sample. Well,
it's
that's
not indicative of anything.
Yeah, well, that's what this is. So
but that's crunch time.
Yeah, and so I just really think that, like for example,
we can't draw any big conclusions based on 8 games. You can if you want to.
Well, let's say they win 97 next year and they lose and they get swept in the DS. So he's just going to come out next year and say, hey, we had a great year. You can't really, take much out of 3 games. All right. Well, then,
right. Well, no, that's a good point.
What do we do? Like you got the postseason games mean a little bit more.
Of course. And yeah, the strategy is different in short series, like he mentioned, with a lot of relievers. And yes, you shouldn't expect to score a lot of runs, but it's still it's still notable. All right, coming up next, we continue to break down the Jed Hoyer press conference. Stay tuned.
This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 to get 300 bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. This is the hottest I've ever been on FanDuel with the NFL. I've gotten a couple messages saying, Sam, if you're so hot, why don't you give out some picks? All right. I like Cincinnati Thursday night plus 5.5 in the Steel City. I gave out the Bears the other day. I'm feeling pretty good right now. I might give out more if that one hits for Friday show. I like Cincinnati and Joe Flacco plus the 5.5 at home against the Steelers. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started.
Shout out to the everydayers, and you can become a Locked On Cubs everydayer by joining us for every episode throughout the week. We continue to break down the Jed Hoyer press conference from Wednesday over on Clark and Addison there. And Sam, I have a topic wheel here. Would you like to go to goals moving forward, pitching / bullpen, Kyle Tucker, Wrigley, extensions, budget and payroll? I mean, there's so much.
Yeah, I thought the biggest, if you're going to have a headline from the presser, to me, and it's a hard one to find, it was that he mentioned that he was going to be in talks with guys in their walk year after next year for extensions. I mean, he mentioned that. He said that he hopes it doesn't get out. He used PCA as an example of that. Those guys include Tyone, they include Horner, they include Happ, they include Suzuki. I thought that was I thought that was a fairly big takeaway because I think they have to extend one or two of them before the year. So he kind of confirmed that. So that's where I would go on the spinning wheel of this kind of regular press conference.
I just wonder if any of those guys are going to be interested in that with what's looming. There's so much uncertainty in the sport. I wonder if they would just want to play out their deals and see.
That could be why they want it,
right? To build security within their own,
because they don't know what's said. I'll tell you this: if I were Nico Horner, I would be interested because you want to sign a big deal after an extension. After a good season. After a good season, if you're really good, like that was such a great year for Nico. You see if you can go get a raise and go get, 18, 20 mil a year for 3-4. I don't know.
I think those are the targets. I would be surprised if Pete or Bush or Shaw or Horton did any kind of extension. It would be more of the guys entering their final season. I think Horner's the best candidate. Maybe Tyone would be 2.
I think Tyone would be 2 just because I think he'd be willing to accept kind of a team, more of a team-friendly deal or just extend the deal that he already has. I mean, the huge question, I'll go to another wheel. What did you think about his answer with Shota?
Yeah, I didn't find it as notable as I thought I would. I didn't even put it in my notes.
He did an excellent job with it. He really did. I mean, he praised him. He said something along the lines,
as he should.
You take this, and that, but he also wasn't committal. Like he could have literally said right there, we're going to pick up the option.
Or he could have said, I expect him to be back, something along those lines.
So I just think that's a really big domino to fall.
I mean, to leave it ambiguous is noteworthy. You're right.
What's the deadline on that? 5 days, 3 days after the World Series?
5 days after the WS ends, when the Dodgers beat the Mariners.
The Tucker stuff I have no comment on. I'm going to do a show on that.
Well, what do you mean you have no comment? It's a talk show.
Well, I think he's gone.
So wait a second. So you don't have – he spent a while talking about it. I mean, you don't have anything to say on that? Here's what I have to say. They got to re-sign him. If they don't re-sign him, it's a massive failure. And you know it. I know it. All the Cubs fans know it. I'll make the case for wanting him back later in the offseason. But it's a joke if they don't re-sign him.
No.
Am I wrong?
Yes.
when we were at our best, Kyle was at his best, is what Jed said. He had a huge impact on this team as we hoped he would. Everyone gets better by having a player like that. Oh, wait, so you did figure that out for once.
Right.
Oh, so wait, that player might be just down the hall and now he's going to, go to the Rays? Or the Phillies or the Dodgers or the Red Sox or the Giants, whoever?
I just don't see it, right? Like, so I don't want to, we're going to talk about this a lot. I just don't see it. If he really liked it here, he would have signed an extension already. He didn't have a great year.
I think he wanted to hit the open market.
I agree with Jed in the fact that when he was at his best, the Cubs were at their best. But it doesn't seem – I would be really surprised if he came back. I mean, Jesse Rogers has already basically put the kibosh on that, and he did it in the middle of a playoff game.
Yeah, and Jesse broke some news on Wednesday as well about Bregman. I don't think you've heard yet. We might have to run that back next week.
No, could you just share it?
that Bregman was waiting for the Cubs, and the ownership stepped in and didn't give Bregman what he wanted, so he went to the Red Sox.
Yeah, and that's why I'm not overly confident in any of this.
Neither am I, but they need to do it.
I think Ricketts is going to sit there and look and go, well, wait a second. We could get a cheaper option. We could put Ballesteros there. We could get Casey there with our pitching. And I have one pretty big storyline that didn't come up that I'd like to share.
Oh, great.
I'm going to save that for the last segment.
And what is Tom Ricketts looking at when he does that, by the way? You're indicating he's looking at, what, a piece of paper? What are you doing when you do that? You're doing some kind of demonstration. Like you're looking at his budget line.
And like a win projection with all the war on it that Jed presents
great, because the owner really should be doing that.
Yeah, he's going to say, hey, can we get to 88, 89 without Tucker?
If their goal is to get to a win total that starts with an 8, they should be ashamed of themselves.
Well, Matt, people keep saying, like, what evidence do we have that they're going to re-sign Tucker? And by the way, are we sure we
don't have much.
The second half of the season, he was one of the worst hitters on the club.
We don't have much evidence, but you think that Owen Casey and Ballesteros will do better than him?
No.
Over the totality of 162?
No, maybe they bring Bellinger back.
Well, Bruce Levine seems to know something because he asked Jed directly about Bellinger. I didn't even consider that. Could they actually reunite with him?
They're going to have to do something to replace see this. I don't want to do this conversation right now.
Okay, fine.
There's other stuff. And I want to tell you something. And I'm going to tell you.
This is the opportunity to do it.
I'm going to wait for the third segment. I'm going to tell you something that didn't come up that really upset me.
Well, then let me ask you about the Wrigley Field stuff then.
Huge.
Let me go to my notes. I don't really understand the focus on the ballpark, Jed said. I have been here for 14 years. It's been a mix. 2023, one of the best. Last 2 years, it wasn't. I don't think anything has changed dramatically. I think we're dealing with randomness. The idea that Wrigley is a hitter's nightmare, I reject it outright. I was a little thrown off by this response. I did appreciate when he said they need to build a team that could do things multiple ways offensively, which is what they did for the most part.
And he said that.
Although I think an extra Nico Horner would help for 2026 if you want to, make a run again. But I don't know. It would be hard to believe, and I think it would be wrong of them to just brush it off as randomness when now, 160 games, it's been a weird weather park. I get 23 was a good offensive environment, but now over 100 plus games, it has been a nightmare at times. I don't know if I would have been as dismissive as he was.
I think he had to be dismissive about it publicly because he's got to attract some offensive free agents. And so
it's good to remember.
I think he was pitching that. I think the Wrigley thing, I hope he's right. I think my thing with Wrigley isn't the fact, 23 was a hitter's environment, 24 and 25, it was a pitcher's. It's how consistently for series and homestands it was so brutal to hit, right? Because you could still be a hitter's environment next year in certain ways, but it's just like for weeks and weeks and weeks
Yeah.
at a time, it just felt like it was a race to 3. And I think you have to build your team around that and acknowledge that. And, but I wasn't surprised the way he handled it. And listen, I hope he's right. You know what I mean? Because it's not fun. I don't like those games. They're brutal to watch. And there felt like there's about 60, 70 of them.
And he believes they have the players to do it in different ways. And I hope, I think that was true most of the year. And I hope he continues to build rosters that way. All right, we continue the Hoyer press conference convo right after this. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right means cashing in. With football back, Prize Picks is the simplest and fastest way to get in on the action. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can turn your takes into real prizes, all in less than 60 seconds. When you play Prize Picks, it's going to be such a fun way to stay locked in for this football season. It's quick, easy. It's going to be your favorite way to follow along. And you could pick Josh Allen, more or less, passing yards. You could pick Saquon Barkley, more or less, rushing touchdowns, and a whole lot more. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Cubs on your preferred audio platform or YouTube. That way you don't miss any of the great Cubs content we've got for you. All right, before we get to Sam's thing that Hoyer didn't get to, would I have that right?
Yeah, well, it's not his fault. Well, he wasn't asked about it.
Well, there you go. He mentioned a few players by name, given the questions he was asked. Sam, the one before we get to individuals and then the thing he wasn't asked about, he did emphasize a need to continue to add pitching, whether it's depth or impact or both, that the game has changed, use a ton of arms. The early playoff rounds involve a lot of bullpen, which obviously we saw the last couple of weeks. But it does sound like they've taken notice of how impactful velo is. Stuff continues to be. The bullpens are volatile. I think they've demonstrated an understanding of that, very clearly, which is why it could be a reason that they don't bring back a few of those guys who are free agents. And I also think the starting pitching group will be impacted by this. It's one reason why I don't think necessarily Shota is going to be playing on a new team next year, because you just want to build in certainty and security.
Yeah.
And really the more the merrier type thing. But, it was just good to hear that pitching's on the radar. And because a lot of the positions are full, I think most of the new additions will be pitchers. Let's see. No budget conversations yet. But he's confident they'll have enough money to field a good team.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Brewers have enough money to field a good team. So what does that mean?
Yeah. Well,
all right. I'd like to get to my thing, and I want to ask you about it because I could be wrong. And I'll preface this by saying I'm not saying this because he came on our show and he's a good guy. I thought it was wildly insane that there wasn't a question about Justin Steele. I mean, this is a guy that projected going into the year as your best pitcher. This is a guy that since the second half of 22, as you point out, when he pitches a lot, has basically been one of the 15 best guys in the game. And was probably the guy that we felt like even when Horton was throwing well, it just felt like you were missing that guy. And you talk about pitching. I would have liked to hear an update on him. Hey, what's going on with Justin Steele? How did that injury play into things? And you'd think Jed would love to field that question because it's a built-in excuse. Hey, we won 92 games in spite of losing a really good pitcher. Were you surprised at all that his name was not mentioned at all in the press conference?
I think so. I know that Steele had media availability last week with the local scrum, but to not ask Hoyer, who runs the team, about his number one pitcher entering this year and who's been with the Cubs organization the longest of any player currently in their organization. Yeah, it was a little surprising. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think, as you mentioned, pitching, I think that's like one of the bigger offseason stories once we move on from the Tucker situation, which I'll be talking about tomorrow.
That's right.
Is if you get Justin Steele back whenever you do, and he's Justin Steele, and you put him, now it may take some time, we don't know, but I'm talking about down the stretch because you've been the captain of this ship. You've been the captain of Wrigley Field, 4 or 5 game series, Steele, Imanaga, whatever. Now it's Steele, Horton, Boyd, Tyone, Imanaga, maybe Wiggins. Maybe they get another guy.
Maybe Cease or King.
They really have the ability not to do what the Dodgers are doing right now against the Brewers, where they're throwing complete games every night. But, they have the ability to be a really high-level pitching staff, which I think is going to be their strength heading into the year. But I think it's really important that, you know about the progress and recovery of one of your best guys, because that's going to determine some of your aggression in the offseason.
Yeah, and now you're not going to get an update until at the earliest in about a month at the GM meetings and then the winter meetings. So, yeah, I would have been like to hear him on the record about that for sure.
So,
let's see here. I think that's about it.
It was very status quo. Again, I just, you might hear me this offseason. So far, I mean, we're only 3 shows in.
Okay.
I just don't think I'm going to get like overly excited about rumors because I think I know exactly where we're going here. I think they're going to add some pitching.
Well, I think the pace of the rumor will be slower anyway than last year.
I just think we know what this team is and what they're trying to be. And, I guess it's all about Tucker first. And, he easily could have one of those free agencies where he doesn't sign till like February.
Oh gosh.
I hope
no.
But
if that's the case, his chances of coming here increase
for sure. Like a Belly situation.
All right, last thing. Hoyer said playoff crowds were unbelievably impressive. Those 2 words are exact. There was a natural build throughout the year, Jed felt. He didn't remember players commenting on the crowd as much as they did the last couple of weeks of the playoffs. That was really cool. And he said that leaves you wanting more. We haven't had these types of feelings since 2015 and 2016. It makes you work that much harder and make that much better decisions to get back to that place again. Hopefully he sticks to that mantra because that's
he's got it. Yeah, absolutely. But he's got to get some money to spend too, more money to spend to do that.
So. Absolutely. All right, Sam will be back Friday grading Kyle Tucker and more. This is Locked On Cubs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. For your second listen, check out Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on the Locked On MLB channel on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. He's Sam Olber. I'm Matt Cozy. This is Locked On Cubs.